Hello, everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
What's up, brother?
What's up? What's the one? What are we doing?
Special teams? No, you're not doing that? Okay. Uh, sorry, Jerry. You're not cool enough, I guess, to
No.
know that. Some people did it. Some people knew that out there. And to those of you, I say, what's up, brother? So we are here to recap the draft. 2024 NFL draft concluded a few days
that
ago.
didn't work. This is going off the rail very quickly for a beginning.
It's just
Well, I looked really dark on my photos or in my picture, so I was like trying to lighten up the background, and all of a sudden my green screen shows up. It's like super bright.
For those of you listening who don't care about any of that, Jerry is just putting his hand in the camera over and over again.
We're off the rails.
It looks fine, Jerry. It looks fine. You look great.
We're 1 minute in. I'm like, should we just start this one over again, guys?
No, we're keeping all this in. So we're here to recap the draft. We did a recap of the first 3 rounds a few days ago. So check that out if you want more of an in-depth recap of those 3 picks. But we'll be talking about those guys again a little bit here. So overall, Jerry, I've been kind of looking at some grades and stuff, and a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to people looking at the Panthers. Although I think a lot of the negative grades I've seen are including last year's trade, right? Like
you can't include that.
I know. I know.
As much as we wish that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done it a little differently, I think, but the jury's still out, right? This draft was all about getting weapons for Bryce Young.
And
that's
rightfully
what this draft was about.
This whole offseason.
Yeah. This you're 100% right. This offseason, all the money that was spent, the trades that were made, and the draft, especially the first few rounds, was all about maximizing Bryce Young's opportunity to be his best self. And we're going to see. We're going to see over the next 2 seasons if Bryce Young is the guy. And if he's not the guy, we will have a different quarterback likely going into the 2026 season. But that's not the conversation for today. Today, the conversation is about the draft. So, Jerry, let's talk about our first round pick.
Oh, are we going to go that since we've already talked about it?
Let's just go quickly. What I am curious about. So, Xavier Legette traded up to 32 to get him. Jerry, you were not overly excited about the pick. You've had a few days now. You've done a little research, I'm sure. You've probably watched a few videos. You've read the commentary, things like that. Do you feel the same way, or are you any more excited about the pick?
I feel the same way. I was kind of excited when it happened, but I think there was better players on the board. I feel like Xavier Legette's a guy who had one great season at South Carolina with a lot of manufactured touches, where when I say manufactured, a lot of screens, a little dump offs, nothing flashy. And they used his abilities. He didn't run intermediate routes. He can play the ball deep really well. Better than Jonathan Mingo, who I said we took last year around the same spot, and he's a project too, very similar to him. Not the best route runner, but a physical freak. Again, I would have liked a Lad McConkey, a guy who's a crisp route runner that gets open. Well, I think Xavier Legette is more of a guy who can make plays happen, if that makes sense. While he doesn't get open, he can catch a 50-50 ball more times than not.
I see what you're saying. And before everyone says, oh, Lad McConkey is the same player as Adam Thielen. Well, no, they're not. Number one, and number two, Adam Thielen might not be here after this year. So,
and I also think a younger Adam Thielen is a more precise measurement, because you remember Adam Thielen when he was young could go deep, had that speed, and Lad McConkey has speed.
He does. McConkey a little smaller than Thielen, but would have been a fine pick. But Legette, or Legette, as he likes to say, although I think that's just his accent. He's such a genuine dude. Like he's such a cool, funny. I love his personality. Listen to him speak. You will instantly fall in love with him as a person, right? We hope that he matches that with his play on the field. But overall, I'm excited about him, and we'll move on to our next pick here.
Yeah, I do want to say I'm
Go ahead.
really hoping he pans out, and
Of course.
I think going to Dave Canales is a great opportunity for him. A guy who's worked with DK Metcalf, a guy who's worked with Mike Evans, who's been able to make those big body receivers come out. Because I did not like DK Metcalf coming out of college either. So
yeah, and I've seen some people saying that Leggett could be a Metcalf type of receiver or an AJ Brown type of receiver. So again, we heard the same things about Jonathan Mingo. But as we've talked about many times, you almost have to throw last season out. So in terms of who these guys are. So we'll see what happens there. But another guy, our second round pick, Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas, a guy that I think initially you were not super stoked about the pick, but you've come around on that one.
I think it was like literally the pick. I was like, I was a little down because it was, already, told to me basically via the radio by other guys.
Right.
And I was like,
you keep
really?
saying that. Yeah.
But that being said, as soon as I really looked into him, like literally right after we drafted him, I really like the pick. I think this guy could be a top 10 running back in the league. I think he has all the makings of it. That ACL tear, without that, he probably would have went in the first round, late first round.
Yeah. For sure.
So
he doesn't fall to us without that.
So with that being said, I mean, if we have to give him a half a year to get up to speed due to that ACL injury, I'm fine with that. If he has to take this whole year, I mean, this isn't this year. Now Bryce Young's going to have a 3-down back that has great hands that can run any style of play here. I mean, I've heard so many good comps for him, and I've watched his play. He is a great running back.
Yeah, I watched a press conference with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and a couple of the other front office guys for the Cowboys. And man, they were just fawning over him. Like sounds like they desperately wanted to draft him.
Jerry Jones did. Stephen Jones supposedly hit him on the side trying to get him to shut up.
Right. And eventually Stephen Jones said some nice things too. But yeah, I think Jerry Jones got a little excited about him, and Stephen Jones was like, "Hey, let's not tip our hand here." But you mentioned something about 2025, right? I think you have to keep in mind for this draft, the Panthers are playing the long game, right? Playing the long game with Leggett, who, like you said, 1-year wonder. Showed he's got the skills, but probably needs some refining.
Yeah.
Okay. Second round pick, Jonathan Brooks, coming off an ACL. It usually takes guys a season. Now, there are exceptions, right? Where they'll come out and they'll just be the same guy they were immediately, right? But most guys take a year or so before they're fully back, right? Yeah. So that would not surprise me if Jonathan Brooks, doesn't start the season, or if he does, that they have him on a pitch count most of the year, right?
I'm fine with that. I think that
makes sense.
I think you also need to see what you have at Chuba too, to a certain extent.
Sure. I mean, he's coming up. He's got, this is the last year, right? I mean,
yeah.
So we'll see what happens with him. Sanders as well. I mean, with the new scheme and new offense, we've got Sanders under contract for another couple of years. So see what you got in him, right? So again, I think this draft was done with a mind for the future, not necessarily for 2024. So we'll keep that in mind as we continue on here. Third round pick, is it Trevin Wallace?
Yes, Trevin Wallace, pick 72 in the third round out of Kentucky.
That one was a bit of a surprise for both of us. The guy that we did not research and did not talk about. Honestly, I'd never heard of his name.
I mean, he played at Kentucky. How did you not know his name?
Yeah, that football powerhouse. Yeah. So again, he's a guy that it seems like he's got a killer mentality. Like he wants to win, he wants to kill you, he wants to fight you, he wants to hurt you. I love that, right? Little smaller for a prototypical linebacker. Shorter. He's big, strong, but a little short. But supposedly he's got the side to side speed. He got some things to work on. I think it's a little high for a third round pick, but I understand why they made the pick. I understand why they like him. And with Dan Morgan making the pick, I mean, how am I going to say it was the wrong pick? He's he's a great linebacker. He knows what to look for. So I'm not going to downgrade that pick at all.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It kind of surprised me. He was not on my radar, and from what I read, like you said, he seems very raw. I think he
Mhm.
has that dog mentality that, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales mentioned before the draft. So I could kind of see why they drafted him. And again, this is not a hey, let's flip it this week or this year. And I
Right.
think they felt, hey, this guy has all the tools. I think with coaching, especially Evero, maybe I could turn this guy into something.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Next pick here, Jatavion Sanders, tight end, also out of Texas. That one I was stoked for. Like, had we done our traditional prediction show or had a prediction like we have in the past where we always have chosen someone that gets drafted, I would have said Jatavion Sanders would have been the guy. You know how much I liked him in the
Yeah.
pre-draft. We talked about him. We had, I think, a whole episode about him.
I would have said Leggett so I can cherry pick because I had a feeling we were picking Leggett.
Hey, I think I agree. I believe you, and I think I would have agreed with you. So we're just gonna say it. We got two right.
I'll say Sanders. Hey, we did a draft profile. One
I
of
was
our
gonna say we did an entire thing on him. We both really liked him, but he's one of those guys. He's more of a receiving tight end. Um, he's big, 6'4". He's fast. He can make great catches. He's got amazing hands. Uh, Blocking, not so much, but that's something that hopefully you can teach him enough to get by, right? Where
The-
he's not going to be a liability.
yeah, and before last year, he was the number one or number two tight end on the board on most people's draft boards. I think
I mean,
Bowers
he was
was
still the
number one.
number two. Yeah.
Well,
He was
I was
still
gonna.
number two for most everyone this year. Go ahead.
Well, Ben Sinnott went in the second round, so I don't.
Right, but on most boards, like
Okay.
mock draft boards and things, he was right up there as the number one or number two or number three guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but either way, he has all the physical attributes that you want. He just
Mhm.
didn't put it together that a lot of the draft gurus thought he would. That's kind of why he slipped to the fourth round. But if you watch his highlights, man, that guy, he's a catch threat. So he may not be a every down tight end type of player right now. But
Right.
right now, what you could do is you could spatter him in and you could split him out wide. You can use him in that tight end formation where it's a pass play, or you could even fake it out where, don't obviously when he gets out there, you don't want it to automatically be a pass, but, work him
Yeah.
in slowly.
And I think in the red zone, I don't know that he was a giant red zone threat at Texas, but he's got the size, he's got the hands, he's got the speed. He will be a good red zone threat in the NFL. But again, this is another guy that he might take a season to season, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he needs a little bit of time to be that every down tight end. However, I will say I think come opening day, he's going to be out there on the first series. I think he's going to be the starter starting the season.
I don't know about starter. You know how they
No,
always do that.
I'm just saying I'm making that prediction.
Okay.
I'm making that prediction. All right, let's move on. With the fifth round pick 157, Chow Smith Wade, cornerback out of Washington State. We needed a corner. We've had success with fifth round corners in the past on this team, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them. And I don't know a ton about Smith Wade, but
He's more of a slot corner. He's 5'10". He ran a 4.5. Going through NFL.com's like pros and cons, pros possesses ability to locate and badger receivers' hands, moves with basketball athleticism, does a nice job staying the phase with man routes. Uh, very good hips. I'm not going to say oily hips. That just feels weird.
Ooh, oily
Recovery,
hips.
agility to handle larger. I mean, basically, he sounds like a really good slot corner. Weaknesses, size. Okay, well, that's why you're not on the outside.
Yeah.
Squats on short zone versus high-low concepts. Okay, stuff you can work on. Hasn't broken his habit of face guarding when the throw goes up. Okay, things you could teach.
Right. Right. I mean, again, it's a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
So there's a reason he went to in the 5th round, and anyone that we're talking about this from this point forward can be viewed as a project.
100%.
So,
I mean, these are I hate saying it. These are the guys that have to show that they were a reasonable pick in training camp, because you can get cut as a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick.
100%. Not saved on the roster. I mean, even though we do have a bit of a depth issue at corner at the moment, would seem like he might be a shoe in for the roster, but I think he's still gonna have to earn his spot. So we'll see. All right, on to the 6th round, pick 200, Jaden Cremedy, Mississippi State, defensive tackle, depth piece here. Another guy that is going to take maybe a little bit of time. Seems like we always take a defensive tackle in the 6th round. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. What do you have on this guy?
6'4", 301, big guy. I mean, defensive tackle.
Yep.
Drafted projected round 5th or 6th round, so right where he was going. Their overview: 4-year starter with adequate size and impressive power at the point of attack. 4-year starter, maintains proper pad level, good transition from anchor to quick disengagement to tackle ball carriers. From what I read through everything about him, he's more of a run stopper, which, okay, cool. I mean, he's not a pass rusher with that size. Shows ability to dent the pocket with pure power. He's a power guy. Okay. Lacks control when charging forward. I hate saying this. I'm okay with a little bit with that.
I mean, that doesn't seem like too much of a problem for a run-stopping defensive tackle.
For a 6th round pick, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Needs to develop his hand to better control his blocks. Below average feel and attack against down blocks. Not enough snap quickness to gain early advantage on rushers. And below average rush plan and gets stuck in pass blocking too often.
6th round pick. Again, things that can hopefully be taught. Moving on. 7th round, pick 240, Michael Barrett out of Michigan, another linebacker. 7th round pick. So lottery pick kind of. I mean, but what do you got on this guy?
I actually really like this pick for a 7th round pick. I've done a little research on him. He played at Michigan. He was a starter at Michigan. He made a lot of plays. You jumped the gun. My stuff hasn't loaded, but I did do some research on him after we drafted him. He was a little undersized. Good. I think this is a great 7th round pick. A guy that can maybe help on special teams. A guy that you can hope can be a backup in the future. Brings physical demeanor as an open field player. Plus tackle strength and wrap-up effort to end plays. Athletic at space with good hands and man cover. Takes accurate angles, 5-phase special teams talent. That's their positives.
Another smaller linebacker, only 5'11". So, NFL.com says candidate for bottom of the roster or practice squad. So, but hey, you need special teamers too. And if this guy can be a solid special teams piece, then getting a special teams guy in the 7th round is not a bad way to use a pick.
Yeah. I mean,
we've seen worse ways to use bottom of the draft picks, right?
Yeah. Snap.
Hey, I bet this guy was a starter at Michigan, a team that, won the national championship. So
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't mind taking a 7th round flyer on an undersized guy who shows he knows how to ball. He just doesn't have the physical abilities to really stand out.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. So those are the picks. overall,
Mm-hmm.
again, we've kind of looked at grades here and there. It seems like I saw Walter Football was the only one I saw that gave us an A. I think it was an A minus, and I've seen it all the way down to a D, right? Depending on the outlet. Overall, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go with our grades for the draft. Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to put this draft. I'm going to go with an A. Honestly, I love almost every pick, and I understand the thinking, right? They're putting weapons around Bryce and they've got an eye to the future.
Yep.
So, would I have made a couple of different picks here and there? Probably, but I don't think they struck out on any pick. I think they had a reason for every pick that they made. They said they were going to go best player available, and I feel like they did that for the most part. Right? I think in the third round they jumped a bit, but they obviously had a guy they really liked, and I'm fine with that. So I'm going A, solid straight A. Talk me out of it if you want to, but that's where I'm going.
Well, I'm a little bit more negative than you
Mm-hmm.
on this draft and overall, but I'm not gonna knock it. Like I've seen people really go C, D, and stuff like that. No, I'm
No.
gonna give it B plus. Do feel like it was a solid draft. I think there's a lot of projects in this draft that you have
Mm-hmm.
to really hope the coaching staff coaches up and they hit on, and all inclusive points is I do likely get has already been out there practicing and stuff like that, working on his craft. So I mean, that seems like he at least wants it, and
Yeah.
that is something Kelvin Benjamin didn't want. So
Right. Right.
another big
Yeah.
body receiver who couldn't run routes that well, but he also couldn't pass a Dunkin' Donuts.
But he could catch a lot of Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. But I love the pick in the second round. The running back wasn't my original thought process, but I see where they were surrounding Bryce with weapons. Agreed with the third round pick. A little risky, but again, I see where their thought process is.
Right.
And fourth round, my favorite pick of the draft. Sanders,
Yeah.
I think getting that type of weapon in the fourth round, I think could be huge.
Yeah, and and I heard what you said, and I've read the same thing that people are saying that he didn't put it all together in college. He was still like the second most productive tight end in college. Like he was right behind Bowers in all the big categories that you want.
Oh,
Right?
I liked
for
it.
a guy that hasn't put it all to. I'm not saying you didn't, but I'm saying if that's true and he hasn't put it all together yet, then my goodness, like if he does put it all together. That's exciting. That's
very
really
exciting.
exciting.
Oh man, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched his highlights, go watch his highlights.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't play like a tight end when he's running routes and catching the ball. He plays like a big body receiver.
Well, apparently he was a receiver in high school.
Okay,
so
well,
he's got that type of background. So and he basically said, he's his game and Brock Bowers, maybe less Sano, but that they're the new generation of tight end, following in the Travis Kelce, the TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Kincaid, that type of receiving tight end, like where you're receiver first, basically.
Yeah. And that's how he needs to be played as right now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the blocking acumen, and that's
and
not.
And teams that have those guys are, generally successful. Like we've seen success out of teams that have those guys. So I'm hoping that's where we go.
Yeah. I agree. Like I said, Sanders best pick in my eyes. Like where they got him, the ability to contribute, the way he can really transform this offense, I think could be very special.
Just even if you're just looking at it from a potential standpoint, getting him in pick 101, where a few years ago we went with Will Grier at pick 100, right? Like just this is definitely a guy that's going to play immediately. So I love the pick too. I would agree with you. I think that's probably the best pick. I mean, if we're going to go, say worst pick, I think we'd probably both say that there really wasn't a bad pick,
Yeah,
but
I'm
if we're
not
gonna
gonna knock
go,
it. I'm not gonna
yeah,
say a bad pick on
I
any of
think we've
these.
said, yeah, we've said our least. I don't even want to say least favorite pick because I still think it's a fine pick, but the third round pick is the most questionable one, I guess, if you'd
Yeah,
have to put a label on it. But all right, any surprises in terms of maybe a position that we didn't go after or a disappointment that, you know?
I was shocked we did not go after corner earlier, just
Mhm.
because there were some really good corners in the second round. Then they traded back when it was
Yeah.
on. They were on the clock. With that said, either A, I think they have something working with another corner that's still available in free agent, hopefully Stephon Gilmore.
Hmm.
If not that, they have a lot of faith in Dane Jackson.
Yeah.
Faith that I don't have, but they must.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and obviously we're hoping JC Horn is here for a full season, because if he's not, then I think things get ugly real fast, right?
100%.
There's not a lot of depth on the team. The Troy Hill's here. I think it's imperative that they sign Stephon Gilmore. I think at this point, essentially ignoring it in the draft in terms of drafting a starter, I think they have to sign Stephon Gilmore.
I have to sign somebody, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
No. I
So,
mean, that's a guy that is going to be a good starter for you and can be a good body, a healthy guy. It's going to be
a
out there
good
every
locker room guy. I
great locker
mean,
room guy.
look
I mean, if
look
you're going to
at
bring in a good veteran presence for all these young players.
yeah.
He loves to be around here, around the, he's from here, so he wants to be around. Yeah, I love it. I hope that it happens. All right. What else? Anything else we kind of wanted to talk about here with the
A center.
draft?
Center was another thing. They
Hmm.
didn't even like address trying to get one later, which I thought they definitely would do.
Yeah.
I did hear that Brady Christensen was taking or making snaps,
Hmm.
I guess,
Yeah.
at center. In the whatever it was, the
Mini camp or
unofficial,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah. That might be a good spot for him. He's a smart guy. He's got tackle capabilities, so he can move around. He has good size, so
Yeah.
maybe
And
that's where he
obviously,
find his starting position of the future.
maybe. Yeah. Obviously, Austin Corbett is the plan
Oh
right
yeah,
now as in terms
100%.
of
That was a
starter. Yep. And I think Cade Mays also has center capability. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I agree. There was a guy, I think maybe in the third round, that I thought they could have gotten that they
there's
didn't.
the
So
Georgia
the
center.
Georgia center, yeah.
I mean, they traded back and Zach Frazier was still on there, who was a
Yeah.
solid center
Yeah.
that could
Frazier would have
start.
been good too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I did hear Matt Rule has questioned if Brady Christensen's arms are long enough to put it on the ground and snap.
Mm.
But,
Yeah. Well, when Matt Rule questions something, you have to listen,
yes.
right?
Yes.
This guy knows football. All right. Yeah. So in terms of like the NFC South, because I didn't go and look, hardcore at like Tampa Bay's draft or anything, but it feels like we did pretty good in comparison, right? I mean,
we weren't the Falcons,
especially-
thankfully.
right. Like the Falcons drafting Penix at 8 is just
After paying
inexcusable. Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is just mind-boggling. I really don't know what the Atlanta Falcons those poor guys had to deal with, because that's insane to me.
I mean, and in the comments, like, don't try to justify it. Okay. It doesn't make any sense. I understand the thought process is we're going to draft our quarterback of the future. But if things go well with Kirk Cousins, this guy isn't going to play until he's almost 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You don't draft a guy and keep him on the bench until he's 28 years old. You just don't do that. No, smart football teams don't do that. Now, no one's accused the Falcons of being a smart football team, but you bring in Kirk Cousins, you're signaling to your fan base and to your roster that we're ready to win. Use that first round pick on somebody that's going to help you win now.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
they
use
have
that first
holes.
round pick on when you're in a rebuild. Like, you don't do that
You could get the best defensive player on the board. Which
easily.
like
Yeah.
defensive end. There you go. Go get
There
that.
was
You could have traded back.
all the defensive players were still available for
Like
them.
and they don't have the greatest defense. That's what I'm saying. Like
Right. Yeah, I agree. They could have gone with another wide receiver. They could have put in
oh
two
yeah, I mean
incredible wide receivers on their team.
with Kyle Pitts, who you
Yeah,
still love.
I do. I think Kyle Pitts is really good. I think he's now the second best tight end in the division.
Yeah.
Right behind Sanders. So yeah, I think the Panthers did well, overall. And for, just for Dan Morgan and Dave Canales' first draft, I don't think they could have done much better. I think they had a plan. They executed the plan well. Picked up, oh, by the way, we didn't even mention, picked up a second round pick for next year.
I love that. I love that trade. I think
Yeah.
we won that trade in my opinion, just
Oh,
because
easily.
getting a second round next year for dropping back a few spots.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That a great trade. And then they ended up trading back up. So really they only dropped like 5 spots or something. I mean, they didn't drop hardly at all.
Yeah.
So they did a great job. Yeah, I'm giving Dan Morgan just as an A+, I think, just for the way he handled the draft and executing on the plan. So,
Yeah, I agree. They had their board different than I had it, but you could definitely tell what they were doing. They were going best player available for what they needed. I mean,
and they needed everything.
They needed everything, and they obviously prioritized certain positions a little heavier than others. I.e., I think middle line or linebacker was more pivotal to them than most people thought.
Yeah.
Over
but that is something that you and I talked about in our draft profiles, was we thought linebacker was definitely a position of need.
Mm-hmm. But you could kind of see that the way they drafted. They drafted 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, the second one is other, but
yeah. I don't know if you want to talk the undrafted free agents.
I've got them up. We've got a couple minutes here.
Let's do it.
Jake Plummer, not related to
Jake Plummer.
Jack Plummer, Louisville quarterback. Jalen Coker, wide receiver, Holy Cross. Sam Pickney, wide receiver, Coastal Carolina. Jackson Mitchell, linebacker, UConn. Jeremiah Crawford, O-line, Tennessee. Jaden Schreiden, running back out of Monmouth. Devin Carter, wide receiver, West Virginia. Wide receiver, they have Pickney twice. Kevin Fulchich, tight end.
Nice, they listed him twice.
New Haven. Here's our center, Andrew Ram from Oklahoma. Popo
Ram tough.
Amavi, interior defensive line, Oregon. Taylor Upshaw, edge, Arizona. Edge was another shock that we didn't go to.
True.
Derek McClinton, edge, Colorado. Granted, I didn't think this edge class was very good.
Yeah.
After the first
it
round,
wasn't very
guys.
deep. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't very deep.
Linebacker, Jackson Mitchell, UConn. Linebacker, Leo Lowen, Army. Man, they're bringing in a lot of guys. Cornerback, Willie Drew, Virginia Tech. Safety, Damani Richardson, Texas A&M. Safety, Clayton Isbell, Coastal Carolina. Safety, Deshaun Gaddy Jr., Mississippi. Kicker, Harrison Mevis, Missouri. He will be your favorite guide.
Thicker kicker.
He is going to be your favorite, man. He is the thicker kicker, coming in at 243 pounds at 5'11".
I share a kinship with this man. Yeah, I'm not quite there, but I'm not far off. So that the fact that he's a kicker in the NFL just gives me confidence. I can do things.
You can be a professional athlete. I mean, easily. This picture of him next to the punter makes him look like a lineman. and the thing is, he's 5'11" too. It's not
yeah, right. He's not huge.
Our 6'4" tight end weighs less than him.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know if that's what that says about either one of those guys, but I will say that the kicker, the thicker kicker, he did hit a 61-yard field goal in college, so he's got a leg. He has
Yeah.
a leg. Gets a lot of momentum. We'll say
Hey,
it's like a pendulum.
yeah.
All
Hey,
right.
good luck to him. I have no
Yeah.
problem with.
Sure, man. I mean, bring in everybody. Like it sounds like they're running the gamut in terms of position with those undrafted free agents, as they should. Bring in
Yeah.
everybody. Like anybody that wants to come here, bring them in. All right. Well, Jerry, I think that's gonna do it.
All right. We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. If you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube.
We'll be back soon. We are entering the dead period of the NFL season. There is not going to be a lot of news. Now, assuming we do sign Stephon Gilmore, we'll come back and we'll talk about that. But otherwise, we're going to have to come up with some other fun podcasts to do, and we're going to do it. We're not going to leave you guys
Sports
again for
movies.
yeah, we're not going to leave you guys again for months at a time. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks probably. And until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.